Welcome to the latest edition of Breakaway Rail Talk. This is Rail Good Bets Volume 2. We did this last year, gave you a bunch of plays for the Breeders' Cup. A couple of them cashed and we were profitable. I'm Joe Bianca. I'm an ownership advisor at West Point Thoroughbreds, joined by my buddy Jim Politano. Jim, introduce yourself.
What's up, Joe? Good to be here again, brother. We're very much looking forward to it. I am an owner, slightly in New York, and we were just talking about mostly at parks now and a little bit in Florida and branching out a little bit. Still got my couple with West Point, which I'm real excited about. A couple babies there, and Adelphi and some of the other partnerships, the good ones out there. And looking forward to the Breeders' Cup. It's going to be awesome.
You can plug the band, too. I see you're wearing the shirt.
I am going to plug the band. I would normally be at the Breeders' Cup or be in New York with you. Band has a show at Mohegan Sun on Saturday night, so we will be in attendance watching day 2 of the Breeders' Cup and then heading over to the gig. So anybody that's in Connecticut Saturday, come on over.
Breakaway Rail Talk is sponsored, as always, by Arian Pedigree. Shout out to everybody at Arian, especially our homie, the Bloodstock manager, Andrew Stewart. They're launching their new website at the beginning of 2025. It's Arian, ARION.co.nz, and they're going to be tagged as the leading global thoroughbred data specialist, which is an accurate tag because we always go to their website to find, especially the Euro pedigrees and the Australia and New Zealand pedigrees. They're the best in the business at compiling all of these pedigrees that normally would be a little bit foreign to us. Andrew always sends us the pedigrees from the U.S., big U.S. results over the weekend, but it's a global resource, and you should check them out. No more of just focusing on Australia and New Zealand for the most part. The stallion roster has now about 450 stallions currently standing in USA and Canada. It's free. Each roster page gives you a race record summary, a 5x5 pedigree, best performers from the stallion, stats from the stallion, recent black type results, non-black type results, upcoming runners. So this is a major influx into the Arian site, which is already amazing and already a great resource, the best in the business for pedigree info. So we're really excited for you guys and can't wait to use that in 2025, and excited for the growth of the company because you guys have been a great supporter from day one and a great resource for us as we're doing our handicapping. Jim and I, we're not always too familiar with the shippers coming in for the Breeders' Cup and these international races. So if you're in that same boat, you want to learn a little bit more about which horses might handle which surface or which distance, hit them up at arian.co.nz and be on the lookout for that snazzy new website in 2025. All right, so as I mentioned, we did make a profit last year on our Breeders' Cup bets. Don't go back and look at how big of a profit it was, but it was a profitable ROI, so we're very proud. We'll pat ourselves on the back a little bit for that. We're going to go and do a pick 5 for the basically what's going to happen is we're going to replicate some of our on-track discussions. When you're doing like a pick 5 ticket, a pick 4 ticket, a pick 6 ticket with your friends, who do you like? Who do you have to use? Who should we throw in as a bomb? Pick 5 on Friday is what we're going to have for all 5 Breeders' Cup races. I'm going to do a pick 5 to start the first 5 races on Saturday, and then a pick 4 for the last 4 races on Saturday. Jim, I said this replicates some of our conversations and our days. Saratoga was a very trying time for us. We had a lot of pick 6s, a lot of 5 out of 6s with you and a lot of the buddies up at the post bar. Jim, just kind of recap for the audience how close we came so many times up at the spot.
I don't know how I feel, and I reflect on Saratoga a lot from a gambling aspect, and it was productive, and I felt like from day 1 till Labor Day, I felt like handicapping-wise, I was spot on, and there were a couple of times we came down to the wire. There was one in particular, let's go Big Blue. We were 5 deep in the last leg, including a couple that we had the only ticket on the track and couldn't connect. I mean, that was probably one of the most gut-wrenching losses of my life. And I really thought after we had a couple of $30 winners in there. We had some nutty picks that came through, and then we were 5 deep in the last leg, and I thought for sure this is it. We're going to hit something, and it was 200,000-300,000. I think they were coming back. So
yeah. And we ran like second, third, and fourth and shit too, and a lot of these. But what's, even though it was frustrating and we had a lot of near misses, it was a fun process. And I think what's fun about these kind of group pick 6 tickets or pick 5 tickets is you're able to add horses that you may not have seen in the first blush. You get together with some people whose handicapping opinions that you really respect and who may see the race or the races a little bit differently than you. And it allows you not just to have a bigger budget, but allows you to lock onto horses that you might not otherwise have, eliminate some of the bias biases that you might personally have. So it's a great exercise. Next year, we're cracking the big one. I have no doubt about it. But yeah, it was 5 out of 6 after another. We were
Yeah.
texting each other like, how is this possible?
We did back-to-back weekends of Friday and Saturday, 5 out of 6, 4 times in a row. That's
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
The one
What
you're
a
talking
joke.
about, like Meg and I were sitting at dinner, and I was like, I got to step outside. Like, this is very, very trying. But
Joe, if you were at Saratoga or at the Post Bar when we were all huddled around right before the race, they're coming onto the track, and there was dead silence. It was like a pitcher pitching a no-hitter. Nobody talks
yeah,
to anybody. It was disgusting.
exactly. No, but
But we'll get
go
it.
ahead.
We'll get there.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's great to put our heads together, try to find some horses that maybe some other people don't have. Let's turn the page. Breeders' Cup. It's a fabulous Breeders' Cup. Tons of great racing, as you would obviously expect. A lot of international participation. The Japanese, in particular, are sending 19 horses. It used to be none. Then it used to only be a couple, but they've been emboldened by the wins that they've had in recent years. That's a big storyline. Everything starts off, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on each race, because we're going to try to keep this under an hour. We're putting these tickets together. We're going to start off with the juvenile turf sprint on Friday. Post time is 5:45. Field of 12. €7 or Japanese, or €7, one Japanese horse. I don't know about you, Jim. I don't think the American horses have any shot in here. So it's really, to me, just an exercise in who do you like from the foreign shippers. I think the Japanese horse, the 8 Akoro Sig, is really, really interesting. You could say he's stepping up in class right here. You don't know what he was beating in those Japanese races, but he's crazy fast. He ran 107-1 for 6 furlongs last time, broke a 23-year-old track record at Nakayama. It was the fastest 6 furlongs a 2-year-old has ever run in Japan. He's got speed. He's got the American pedigree, being by Twirling Candy. I definitely have to use him. The other horse I 100% have to use is Ides of March from the outside for Aiden O'Brien. Tough draw, but he's got speed, obviously, and has gotten better every single race. 8-12 is who I definitely have to use. Who can you not live without, and maybe who's a long shot you want to toss in?
Well, I got the 8 as my top pick in there as well. I got the 12 rated third, believe it or not, and this might be a heartfelt pick more than anything. I got George Weaver's horse second. That Governor Sam, I think, is the only maybe American horse that has a shot. I love Paco too. I think Pound for Pound, he might be the best rider in the country that gets zero credit, that flies under the radar for the most part. I get him second, and I get the 12 third. So I do like the 8-12. I would like to throw in the 10, and that gets us through the first leg. But I love the 8. If you told me you wanted to single the 8, I'd probably do it.
Yeah,
both those starts were very impressive.
Yeah, super impressive, and you think he's still got a lot of upside too. The only other there's 2 other Euros who I'm a little bit interested in: Asterius, the 2, and the 4 Magnum Force. Magnum Force is a big price on the morning line at 15-1. I'm okay. I think I'm okay leaving off the shorter prices, but I think the 4 for Gare Lions is worth throwing in at a price. So
Definitely,
if you want to,
yeah.
let's go 4, 10, 8, 12 to start, and then maybe we'll see how the rest of it shakes out. Maybe we'll do a second ticket punching the 1 or the 8 rather as a single.
That sounds good. Yeah, I love that.
All right, cool. So that was quick. We'll move on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Post time 6:25, 10 horse field. The favorite is on the outside in number 10. Scottish Lassie blew away the field in the Frizette last time out by 9 lengths. You have an interesting Japanese horse in as well in here. 1 stalled her inside an American Bikini. Ryan Moore picks up the ride, which I think is a little bit interesting. It's not a classic juvenile fillies field. Second choice is the 3 Immersive, who's undefeated for Brad Cox. She hasn't run crazy fast, but I think she's got to be used. I think of the long shots, I think Vodka with a Twist is a little interesting towards the inside for Phil D'Amato. Obviously a top trainer on the West Coast. She's got speed to be close, as she's going to need from the rail draw. And I don't know about you, Jim. I don't know if you played a lot of Del Mar in the summer, but it seemed to me like the track was very, very speed favoring and very kind of speed. You didn't see a lot of deep closers winning. So I'm in general going to shy away from the closers in this Breeders' Cup, but she's the one I find a little bit interesting at a price at the rail. What do you think?
So we were talking about going to Scottish Lassie, which will probably end up being the favorite in this race. I think the race is wide open. So for that horse to be probably going to be 5-2, which is the morning line, somewhere around there. I think you're just giving up a little bit too much. Immersive, I do like as well. American Bikini, I like. I think this race is wide open. I think we got to go pretty deep here with the
Yeah,
ticket.
I agree. I think that one other horse that I would throw in uh, is, I mean, she's been, she's a little, I think she's a little bit of a disappointment relative to her $1.8 million purchase price so far, because she's been beaten at short prices in the Del Mar Debutante, the Oakleaf. But I think Nooney, I think with non-compliant out of the race, you got a little speed from Lecara, who was interesting, but I think Nooney could get loose in this race under Flavian Pratt. I think that's a positive rider switch. She's 15-1 morning line. She's working well for Bob Baffert. So I think I'd throw her in as well. How
And your
about
vodka with the twist too. We gotta throw that one in.
Yes,
You're absolutely right. We got to put that one in somewhere. And I think
100%.
we can go deep on this race. This is one that because it is so wide open. And if the favorite, the bottom line with all of these multi-race tickets, if you hit it, it's going to pay a nice ticket, no matter what
Yeah,
comes out.
no doubt. And in that, on that note, I think Lecara is worth throwing in just because, she has the versatility. She went wire to wire in her maiden win, and then she was able to come from way out of it in the Pocahontas. So I think that she's a little bit interesting and has kind of the tactical speed that you need to factor in this race. The only two I don't really like are Snow White for Dandy Garden and the 6, the other Japanese horse. Jim, is it worth like trying to chop horses off here, or do you want to just go all and then try to press a couple? Because with the scratch, it's only a 9-horse field.
Yeah, we can tentatively go all. I mean,
Okay,
there are some tougher races coming up that I don't know if the ticket's going to dictate keep going all, but we could put it
right,
in there for now. I don't like the 6 at all either. I agree with you.
yeah,
And yeah, Danny Gargan's horse. I doesn't. I mean, it could pop up and win, but doesn't show anything that shows it can win this type of a race. So
yeah, yeah. So we'll say all for now, and then maybe we'll go back and trim. I think on the A ticket, I think 1, 3, 9, 10 is how I would go. Vodka with a twist at a price, and then the 3 favorites. So let's do that. So on the ticket singling at Coro Sagan, the previous race, we'll go 1, 3, 9, 10 in here. Tentatively going all in the juvenile fillies on the main ticket. This is we're moving to the juvenile fillies turf. Post time 7:05 full field. This is the race where I kind of want to lean on one of the favorites, or at least 2 of the favorites. I think Lake Victoria towers over this field. Obviously she's got to stretch out. She's got to go around turns for the first time. She's only gone a 7 furlong straightaway. She's by Frankel. She got to think she's going to be able to stretch out. She drew the rail, so that could be a little bit tricky. But she's got the speed to factor. She's got Ryan Moore, one of the best riders in the country. To me, I think she and the local horse, Phil D'Amato's horse, Thought Process, who's been great in her 3 turf races, has versatility. To me, those are the main 2. No disrespect to John and Vixen, but she drew 13, so I think that puts her a little bit up against it. I don't know, Jim. I'm happy to throw someone else in, but this is the kind of the 5 races. This is the one I would feel most comfortable going narrow, and for me, it's 1-7.
I love the 1 and the 7. I love everything you're saying, but this is my long shot special of the whole card. Is I like the 9. Why can't Kilwin go a little bit longer and like this at a major ticket? I think that horse is going to get overlooked, and we may get 25-1 on there. And I gotta throw that one in there. Have to. I mean, the other 2
Okay.
I love, and I'm with you 100%.
All
But
right.
I love the 9. That might be my long shot special. But again, if they bet the horse down to 8-1, I don't love it as much. So
No, I think that's yeah. I don't. For some reason, Rusty Arnold's horses never get bet, at least not outside of Keeneland. So I think that
yeah,
horse is going to be a big price. Stretching out, came from way out of it last time. Yeah, I have no problem with that. So I'm okay just going 1, 7, 9 in here, and then
beautiful,
pressing the 1 and the 7 on the backup ticket or the press
beautiful.
ticket. Move
Yep,
on to so far we're 4 by 9 by 3 on the main ticket, and then 1 by 2, 1 by 4 by 2 on the backup ticket. So we'll probably have to go narrow in at least one of these last 2 legs. But I think I think the juvenile is the most interesting race on the card. East Avenue is going to be a pretty big favorite, I think, from the rail. 5-2 morning line probably ends up landing at 8-5 or 9-5. But he drew the rail, and there's a lot of speed in this race, so I think he's a little bit vulnerable. The horse for me is Jonathan's Way. I thought he was the most impressive 2-year-old we saw at Saratoga all summer when he won that race. West Point had Moment's Notice in there, and I thought Moment's Notice ran great, and he got his doors blown off by Jonathan's Way. He closed that day. He went wire to wire in the Iroquois, so he's got versatility. He can adapt to other pace scenarios. He drew better than the other favorite in East Avenue. My key horse is Jonathan's Way. I think you have to use the one defensively. Who else are we gonna include in here, Jim?
I agree with you with the speed factor with that horse breaking from the rail. I don't have East Avenue in my top four, to be honest with you. The other horse that I kind of like is Chanton McPatrick. Another one,
Yep.
Impressive at Saratoga. I think will fit right in. I like Jonathan's Way too. You're probably right. We do have to throw the one in as a saver. I don't like that horse at all.
All right.
But maybe we go 3 deep here,
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. There's nothing super clever, but yeah, I think the only issue with Chancellor McPatrick is, like I said, the track may play against him. But like I said, I think there's enough speed in here that could offset any kind of track bias. And by the way, I'm just assuming the track is going to play like this. Very, very important to pay attention to tomorrow's races and then the early races on Friday to notice if there is any track bias and if there is kind of the same lean that we had during the Del Mar summer meet. So yeah, I'm fine going 1-5-10.
And this is a race here that also with the 8 and the 9, the 2 Japanese horses, we don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they may go all out early and just set a ridiculous pace to set it up for a closer, even if the track is, speed favoring. It doesn't really matter if the fractions are ridiculous. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. So we're going 1-5-10 in here. So far we're 4 by 9 by 3 by 3. So just doing the quick math, that's 436 times 4.5, 162 times whatever we use in the last leg. Again, we can chop from that all race if we really need to. So we're going to the last race of the day on Friday, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, 8:25 post time to close it all out. I love John's horse in this race. I'm not being biased. I thought Dream On ran huge in the Summer Stakes. We talked about it a little bit on the main show. Very, very fast-paced, inherited the lead at the top of the stretch, fought all the way down to the wire in a really long stretch. Jockey couldn't keep him straight, and so that I think cost him a little bit too. He's 20-1 morning line. The two horses that beat him by 2 lengths combined are Al Kudra, who's 4-1, and New Century, who's 5-2 on the morning line. They got the Dream set up in that race. I love Dream On here. Big positive rider switch to Jose Ortiz. Drew well. I don't know if there's a ton of speed. There's like a little bit maybe from the outside and Menti stretching out. Maybe one of the Euros goes. I really like Dream On, but I'm curious to hear what you think. It's on paper to me at least a wide open race.
Yeah, it is definitely wide open, and that's exactly what my notes say. I do have Dream On rated in 3rd right now. And for the record, I love the name. Anything named after a Boston band song.
I figured. I thought that'd be right up your alley.
This is one of my battles with the Jockey Club constantly. And I think I use this horse as an example to get the West Point horse name Walking in Memphis. Because if you allow Dream On, you have to allow Walking in Memphis. So
exactly.
I definitely got him rated in there, and I did feel like this race was wide open. I kind of like the Japanese horse, the one a little bit as a long shot. For no other reason. I mean, both races again. It's a shipper that's coming in. That both races were very impressive. Looks like he can run a little bit. So I want to throw that one in. And maybe Zulu Kingdom is the other one that I kind of like a little bit. But yeah, I have no problem putting Dream On there. How deep can we go in here to make the ticket reasonable?
Yeah, I think 3 deep, unless we, I feel like maybe, this is like famous last words, but I feel like maybe let's go back and trim the 2 horses we weren't going to use in the juvenile fillies because every dollar matters. So then we'll take that down to 7 in there instead of 9. So let me just adjust that real quick. We're going 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, or rather 7 scratch, 8, 9, 10 in the juvenile fillies. So that takes us to 4 by 7 by 3 by 3. So now we're looking at 112, 126. I think 4 deep now is doable in this race on the main ticket at least. That takes us to about 500.
We're in agreement. We want to put the 2 in, definitely.
Yes, and definitely the 1. And I'm with you on Zulu Kingdom. I thought, I thought he showed a lot of bravery in those 2 races. He dove through a narrow opening inside in the With Anticipation. He got checked in the Pilgrim and still got up over a very, very boggy turf course. So I like what I've seen from him. He's undefeated. So 1, 2, 5 for sure. And then it's just a matter, do you want to cover the favorite or do you want to throw another bomb in here as the 4th horse?
I kind of like the 10 a little bit, Menity.
Yep.
Um, Menti. I mean, I'm okay going with that if that's what we can do.
Perfect. No, I like him too because it's not a ton of speed in here. He drew outside. Johnny Velasquez, for my money, is the best big money rider in the
Yeah,
business. So I think he's going to have him in a great spot. And he's only been 6, 7 furlongs, but he's a full brother to Fierceness. So I think that
yeah,
there's no reason to think that he
yeah.
can't stretch out. I mean, it's a little risky, I think, leaving out the Euros, but I feel good with those four. So yeah, let's do that. So
This is going
here's
to be a
our
nice ticket too. If somebody connects on this, if we connect on this, that's going to be a good ticket.
Yeah, 100%. So, Julie, I'll send these to you, of course, but we're going to go 4, 8, 10, 12 in the first leg, 1, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 in the second leg, 1, 7, 9 in the third leg, 1, 5, 10 in the fourth leg, and then 1, 2, 5, 10 in the finale, the closer of the day. So that's 4 by 7 by 3 by 3 by 4. Doing the math real quick. I'm doing this off the top of my head, so give me a little bit of credit and a little bit of time. $504 for the main ticket. And then I think in the backup ticket, we might as well just use all the ones we used in the last two legs. In the backup ticket, we're going to single the 8 Nakoro Sig in the first race, and then we're going to go 1, 3, 9, 10 in the second leg, 1, 7 in the third leg, by 1, 5, 10, by 1, 2, 5, 10 in the last leg. So that's going to
Love
be
it.
1 by 4 by 2 by 3 by 4. So that's going to be a $48 ticket total. $552 investment. I think that's solid for a late pick 5 that Jim, we think we both agree could be big balloons.
Definitely, no doubt. Especially if Dream On wins that last end, we'll be
Yeah,
hitting
or the
home
Japanese
runs.
horse. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, for
yeah.
sure. I love it. All right, so we'll move on to Saturday. We're moving right along here. I love this. We're getting better and better at this all the time. We start the action on Saturday, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific time, with the Philly and Mare Sprint going 7 furlongs. This is West Point's lone entrant of the weekend, and we're really excited to run Vava. Hopefully she can bounce back from the third in the ballerina, because before that I thought she was pretty clearly the leader in the division, but she's got to deal with Society, who beat her in the ballerina, who's got a lot of speed. That's the thing that worries me in this race. I didn't see a ton of speed. I, to me, Jim, I'm all over Ways and Means. I think that we got to use a couple other ones, but I thought Ways and Means, since that Saratoga allowance race, has just been so good. She ran great in the test over a tiring track, ran great in the Gallon Bloom. She drew awesome on the outside with Chad Brown. The only race she's lost this year is the only race that I actually bet her was in the Kentucky Oaks. And I thought she was Gin turning for home, and then Torpedo Anna
Yeah,
said nope and stiff armed
yeah.
her and kept on going. Ways and Means is on top for me. Who do you look at in this race? Is there anybody that could pop at a price?
I love Ways and Means too. I mean, it's hard to get around, and I love the horse as a whole. Like very consistent, digs every time. But I think that that horse is going to get bet heavily. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that horse may go off 2-1 in here, and then if you got people that are single in this at the top of their ticket, and we're going deep, that's less that we can do on the other end. I like Society a lot, and that last race was very impressive. The distance should fit perfectly, and then your horse. I think your West Point horse we got to throw in too. I wouldn't mind going three
Yeah.
deep here.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I don't think I have anything super clever. The only other horse I kind of looked at was a 7 Zeitlos, but I just think there's not going to be enough speed to set her up. So yeah, I think I'm okay with going 4, 6, 9, and then I think we kind of have our bases covered from a pace standpoint.
Yeah,
We got the speed, and then we got the stalkers as well. All we need is just for there to not be a pace meltdown. We're going to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint next, 341 post on Saturday. I, I call me a chalk eater, but I've been saying this all year that I think Cogburn is the fastest horse in the world at 5 and 6 furlongs. He drew well here. He's outside. He's got some speed to his outside from the Euros and Big Evs. And Bradsell probably will be pretty close. Jim, I'm curious how you see this, because I've been waiting all year for this race for Cogburn to go 5 furlongs. I can't see him losing unless one of the Euros really does something crazy. I think this is our best shot to topple the Euros on the turf races on Saturday.
okay, here's what I got here. I obviously Cogburn, well deserved, going to be a huge favorite. If you could single one, that might be your one. I like Star of Mystery. That last race was so bad, and the horse ran so well. Just came from nowhere, no room the entire race. was in trouble from start to finish. Once the horse got clear, should have won, should have really won the race. I got Star of Mystery on top. I have Cogburn second, and then I got the 12 and the 11 coming up. But I could easily go too deep here. Cogburn and Star of Mystery. I definitely want to throw the 6 as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that too because she's a closer. So, I think if Cogburn loses, it's because he gets melted down on the front end.
Yeah.
In which case, I don't really want any of the other horses that are up close. So I think that makes sense. I think to go 6-9 in there, and then now we have a little bit of room in the next 3 legs to spread.
Definitely.
In the Distaff, I kind of want to bet against Torpedo Anna just because she's. And this is relatively speaking for modern horses. She's had a hard campaign. She's run 6 times. She ran against the boys. She had a hard fought win in the Cotillion last time out. I'm just struggling over who to really include because this is like outside of her, this is one of the weakest Distaff fields I've ever seen. I think that Japanese horse obviously has to be used. Awesome Result, who's 7 for 7 and just keeps getting better and better. Of the prices, I think the clear one to use is Candied at the rail. She's 15-1 morning line. I find it hard to believe she's going to be that price for Todd Pletcher and Irad as people like kind of look for alternatives in the race. Those are the main 3 for me. I know I get Raging Sea. I get that she's hot right now, but she's gotten some really nice setups in her last few races. I don't know that she's really going to get that setup again. I'm okay going 1-2-9. Is there anybody else you want to toss in?
There is. So now going back to Torpedo Anna, I love the move of running the horse in the Travers. The horse ran her heart out, obviously, ran unbelievable. Then came back, was a little bit weaker at Parks. Didn't have to be her best and still won, but that looks like a horse that has run a hard campaign, and as it is at the tail end of that hard campaign, it could get worn down here. So at whatever, she might be 1-5, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
People at the Breeders' Cup fall in love with stars, and that's one of the stars that we have there. And at 1-5, I think Raging Sea, an awesome result, and even the one you mentioned, the one I would like to throw them all in there because Torpedo Anna I see as a deserving favorite, but not an overwhelming favorite like she's going to be.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I was thinking of getting a little narrow, but since we went narrow in the first 2 legs, I think there's no reason to let Raging Sea beat us in case the pace does fall apart. Yeah, so we'll go 1-2-6-9 in there, and then try to get a little funkier in the Breeders' Cup turf because the turf I think is absolutely wide open. I think there's so many different ways you can go in here. Favored is Rebels Romance. But he's obviously very, very admirable horse. 14 for 21. He's won. I love this, Jim. Talk about a world traveler. He's won 6 Group 1s in 5 different countries. That's pretty damn impressive. That being said, he's drawn on the outside in a 3-turn race. I don't think on form he towers over this field. He's just one of the contenders. This is a tricky race because I'm not 100% sure to do with the what to do with the Euros. There's no like standout Euro, but they all kind of have a look. Luxembourg is a little interesting. The 4, I thought the 5 JRB and the 10 Wingspan are kind of the emergent horses. But I also thought that there was a good amount of speed in here. A lot of the Euros coming over, and this isn't usually the case, have speed, and they could get a little hot up front. I'm interested in Shariar, the 3 for Japan. I thought he ran great last year in a stronger renewal of the turf. Ran 3rd at 25-1 behind Auguste Rodin. I think Auguste Rodin would probably be like 3-5 or 4-5 in this race. He's a little bit in and outer. He doesn't run all that often, but I think his good race gets him there, and I think the race might set up for him. Tell me your thoughts about what to me is a wide open turf.
Dude, you're right on with me because I got the 3 picked on top, and I think there's going to be huge value there. I do like the 11. You can't leave that horse out by no means. And then even Farbridge, I think could fit in here. I got us going 5 deep, 3, 4, 5, 11, 6.
All right, 3, 4. Okay, let's see. I mean, Emily Upjohn is a little bit scary for John Gosden. I would throw her into, and then
how deep can we go? How deep do you figure we can go?
Yeah, we can go pretty deep. Like we're only 3 by 2 by 4 in the first 3 legs. So I would throw her in. I would also throw the other Euro for Aidan O'Brien Wingspan to the outside. I got a crazy horse that I also would toss in Grand Sonata. He's 20-1 morning line. Like he's
that race at Kentucky Downs was impressive.
It was
because that was hugely impressive.
Yeah, and he made like an early move and hit
Yeah,
the lead like way too early and then held off all the closers. He ran great, I thought, in the United Nations two back. I'm willing to forgive him for the sword dancer because that was just such a slow pace. He had
yeah.
really no chance to make up any ground. I don't think he's fast enough to win. I like him more underneath, but since we have the ability for the coverage, I don't want to let him beat me if somehow he does jump up and win at 40
Let's
to
do it.
1. So
Yeah.
let's go. We'll use 8 in here. We'll use 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 10 and 11. So I think that's pretty good coverage. And then that, hopefully this is the race we can catch a price because the first three races I think in this sequence are look a little chalky. So we're going 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 10 and 11. So we're 8
Dude,
deep.
they look chalky until Torpedo Anna gets beat and Star of Mystery wins, and they look a little better.
Hey man, no, from your lips to God's ears. Like I'm with you right there. So we're 3x2 by 4x8 in the first four legs of this Saturday pick 5, and so that's 96 times whatever we use in the last race. And this is gonna be so weird to have the classic be the middle race of the pick 5 of the card on Saturday of the Breeders' Cup races. It's a really interesting classic. It's not the highest quality classic you've ever seen, but we've talked about this ad nauseum on the main show. City of Troy, Forever Young in particular, adds so much intrigue to this race. Obviously, Fierceness is one of the top 3-year-olds this year, if not the top 3-year-old. And I think Next is a wild card. I could see Next winning this race by open lengths or running 12th. Like
Yeah.
he could do anything possible, and I think from the outside he's got to go. At least there's a long run going into the clubhouse turn. I don't see a ton of speed. Like there's some front runners, but I don't necessarily see a super pace meltdown here. Jim, what are your thoughts on the classic?
Okay, City of Troy, first of all. I almost want to leave the horse out. The
I
talent is
know,
there.
I know,
I almost want to leave the horse out.
I
I
know.
don't like the aspect of trying something brand new in this situation against a legit field. You're right; it's not the best classic field, but they're legit. Fierceness and Sierra Leone, those are legit horses. It's not a walkover. Um, you can't leave them out. I get it. In here, I like Fierceness. I think the horse finally got his act together. He's run a couple of really monster races back to back now. Not as awkward as he was early on in his career. I like Fierceness on top. I got Sierra Leone second, and I got Next third.
All
The
right.
French horses I got in there as well. The Japanese horses I got in there as well. And then I guess City of Troy you got to throw in.
Yeah. So I think it makes sense to go 5 deep in here. I think Forever Young, City of Troy, and then obviously Fierceness. I would also throw in Sierra Leone and Next. It's so funny. Like I've spent all year talking about what a money burner Sierra Leone is and how I think he's so overrated. But I think this might be the day for him at a
I
price
agree.
because
I agree.
it's he's been favored pretty much every race in his career. He's been 9-2 max. He's 12-1 morning line. I don't know if he's gonna be quite that high, but I think he'll be like 9 or 10-1. And I think that I don't want to be live. I don't want to be live to everybody else but him and see him motoring down the stretch
Yeah.
of Del Mar just to be like, hey Joe, you talk shit about me all year. Watch this. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Giving you the
So
finger as he's running by.
exactly. So no, I will. I refuse to let that happen with you in tow, Jim. So yeah, let's go 1, 3, 9, 11, 14. Arthur's Ride scares me a little bit, but I just can't take him off of that race in the
No.
Jockey Club Gold Cup and with shipping across the country.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit of a phony, but he's the only one that scares me a little bit. But I'm okay using those 5. So that's great. So we this is a $480 ticket. I think that's manageable between two dudes, especially for Jim, who's got a lot more money than me. 469 with 6
Not if I
9
keep
with
betting with you, I'll be tapped.
I set myself up for that one. So the ticket is, and Julia will put this up on the screen for the viewers, 469 with 6 9 with 1 2 6 9 with 2 3 4 5 6 7 10 11, closing it out in the classic with 1 3 9 11 12 for a $480 ticket. Love it, feels good, looks good. Now let's get it home. Last ticket we're going to put together. Final 4 races on Saturday at the Breeders' Cup. Last pick 4 starts with the Filly and Mare Turf, 6:25 Eastern time. Jim, I'm going to let you cook on this one because I looked at this race a bunch of times. I don't know. I really have no lean whatsoever. You got some Euros. Warlike Goddess is the lukewarm favorite. There's a lot of different ways you could go in here, bud.
I love Warlike Goddess. She's a great horse. I think she gets beat here. My pick maybe of the one of the picks of the day is Cinderella's Dream. 2 for 2 in the States. Both races were very impressive. I think you might get a little value there, 4-1. That one might sneak up if Will Like Artist takes a lot of action. If you get 5-1 on that horse, that's a flat bet right there too. I like that one a lot. And then with it, the 7 Content, and that's really it. I mean, I find the race open too beyond that. I think Would Like Artist gets beat at the favorite.
Yeah, no, I would just wonder if she's quite as fast as she was earlier in her career. She's had an unbelievable racing career, and they don't put horses like this in the Hall of Fame, but she's had a Hall of Fame level career, at
Yeah.
least in my eyes. The other horse I'm interested in is Moira. I thought that she ran great in the Diana 3 back in a race that was completely dominated on the front end. She's gotten victimized by some slow paces. She lost to Full Count Felicia last time, so I think you got to throw her in. One horse that I would look at a price is Didia. She was a little bit disappointing in the John Mabey last time, but that was shipping in right off the plane. This time she's been able to settle in a little bit. I think her good races put her right there. I'm looking for a little bit of a price in here, so I like Full Count. I like 2, 3, and then 4, 5, and then I guess this is tough. I guess 7, 10. You okay with that?
I am okay with that. Even in the 7, I do like a little bit. Those last 2 races, which is so bad.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to like a horse off those last 2. That's not something that I would look at and say, hey, we got to throw that one in. But
yeah,
previously, before that, the horse was really, really consistent.
and the common the common denominator with those last 2 races, they're both on soft ground. That's an angle I look for sometimes with these Euros shipping over, like horses who maybe are not accustomed or don't really love that soft ground that you get so often in Europe, and come over here, get some firm ground to run into. So I think that's a little bit of an interesting angle. Full Count Felicia is going to be running and gunning from the rail. We'll see if there's other speed. So yeah, let's start this off with 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10. I do like Moira as an individual bet. I just think she's been a little bit dirtied up in her form. She's 8-1 morning line. I think she's going to get a great trip, and I love Flavien Prat, as anybody who watches the show knows. Move on
really? I didn't
to the
know
Breeders'
that.
Cup. Yeah, that's my boy, bro. That's my boy. I have Flavien Pratt shrine in my bedroom. Don't tell him. We're moving on to the Breeders' Cup Sprint, 7:05 post time Eastern time, 4:05 Pacific. This is a race that I'm reluctantly going to use Nakatomi. He knocked me out of everything in the Vanderbilt. I thought he was a little bit of phony. He won me over in that race. You've obviously got Federal Judge, who's 3-1, straight no chaser. Like to me, like in a race that's full of speed, he might be the speed of the speed. He's very, very impressive. Has done well he hasn't run over this dirt course, but he's done well on the West Coast. He dominated the Santa Anita Sprint Championship last time out. Horse out of that race came back to win on Sunday at Santa Anita. Raging Torrent is interesting, improving 3-year-old for Doug O'Neill. Jim, there's a lot of ways to go. How are you playing the sprint?
This was the hardest race I felt to handicap. I straight no chaser. I agree with 2. I like Federal Judge. I get Nakatomi on top, just basically by default, because I find the race so wide open. I didn't love anything in here, so I'm good with kind of whatever you go with. But I do definitely want to throw Federal Judge, straight no chaser, in Nakatomi.
Yeah.
Those are the 3.
Yeah, no doubt. I got to use Gun Pilot too, just because I've been chasing him a little bit after he ran that huge race in the Churchill Downs Stakes. I singled him in the True North, and then he ran third over that speed favoring track. He ran okay against Mullican. I just think, with all the speed in here, I want at least one closer in case the race falls apart, which you'll see the sprint sometimes do. So I'd like to use him too. So I like Gun Pilot. I like Raging Torrent, but he's going to be under the gun from the rail. So I'm okay not throwing him in. Gun Pilot at 20-1, I definitely want. So we'll use 2, 3, 4 Nakatomi, straight no chaser, the 8. I think you got to use Mullican too. I think he's an improving horse. He's run 4 in a row. He doesn't necessarily need the lead. He can sit off it a little bit. So I think it makes sense to go 2, 3, 4, 8, and 10 in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So 6x5 the first two legs, and this is a pick 4, so we can go a little bit deeper, but I think we do have to go narrow in one of these last two legs. Breeders' Cup Mile is next, 7:45 post time on Saturday, 4:45 Eastern time or Pacific time rather. I like Reminisce a lot. I like the French horse to the inside for Christopher Head. Beat older boys in the Prix de la Forêt last time over soft ground, off a little bit of a layoff from June 21st. I just think she's getting good at the right time. She's never been out of the try. She draws well, and her rider comes over to ride. Has ridden her in every single race except one. There's a lot of ways to go to. More Than Looks is not going to be 20-1 morning line.
No way.
Only beaten a length by Carl Spackler last time. Carl Spackler got the worst of it from the draw, so I'm slightly against him, although he's 6-1, so it's not like he's going to be a huge favorite. The only ones I definitely needed to use in here are the 1 and the 8. Jim, how do you see it?
I got the 8 on top, actually, and I know the horse isn't going to be 20-1, but I think we're going to get 10-1. And at 10-1, there's a huge amount of value there. I got it wide open under that. Yeah, I don't mind throwing the 1 in. Carl Spackler, I mean, you can't leave that horse out. But I love More Than Looks in here. Not More Than Work. That's one of my horses, not that one. And he is definitely not running in the Breeders' Cup. So, yeah, more Than Works. Again, More Than Looks. If he's anywhere above 8-1, that's my pick.
Yeah, I got you. I think that makes sense. I'm okay going just 1, 8, 12. I know there's some other horses in here. Charlie Appleby's got Notable Speech. I mean, Charlie Appleby's won this race 3 years in a row, so maybe we should throw him in too.
Definitely,
just so he doesn't beat us. The only other horse that kind of looked a little interesting to me is the Japanese horse, the 3 Geoglyph. Horse hasn't won in a long time, but has consistently been running figures right around what it would take to win this race. And I don't know. We haven't put any Japanese bombs in any of our tickets. We've put some shorter price Japanese horses in here. I think that he's one to throw in here, and it's going to be 25-30-1. So if you're good with that, I'm going to go 1. Yeah.
There's nothing with that horse that I like, but if you like it, I'm in.
All right, we'll go 1, 3, 6, 8, 12. So we're 6x5x5 going into the final race of the 14 Breeders' Cup Championship races. So 6x5x5, that puts us at 75 times whatever we use for this last race for a 50-cent ticket. It's the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Typically, this race has a pretty fast pace. To me, on paper, at least, the horse to beat is Domestic Product. I think the race sets up for him. He ran great last time out in the Alan Jerkins. He's been dynamite since they figured out that he wants to be a one-turn horse for Klarovich and Chad Brown. He's the horse I think they got to get around. Skippy Longstocking has a big chance, but he drew 14, and it's a very, very short run to the first turn. So I think that puts him in a real jackpot. Saudi Crown from the rail on his good race is the horse to beat. But, his race in the Godolphin Mile was terrible, and his return race at Ellis was okay, but it wasn't, he was 3-5 in there and won by a length and 3/4. He's got to step it back up. Those are the main two to me are Saudi Crown and Domestic Product. Jim, is there anybody that really jumps out to you?
Not really. I got Domestic Product on top. If we had to cut the ticket short, I would single this one. I love that horse in this spot. Deeper than that, Skippy Longstocking, like you said, if it wasn't from the 14, I would love that one too. But that's a hard ask. I mean, from that spot. But definitely 9-14, Saudi Crown you could throw in there. How deep can we go?
Yeah, I think this is the perfect spot to go 4 deep. I think there's 2 other horses that I would use at prices. I'm okay with 1-9 and throwing out Skippy Longstocking. I think Post Time is interesting for Brittany Russell. I think the horse has run well in some big spots, could get a good setup in here. I don't know if he's good enough to outclose Domestic Product, but I just think he's run some negative numbers on the Thorograph sheets, and he's going to be a price, has to work over the track at Del Mar, which I love to see. I think Mufasa's interesting towards the outside for Nacho Correas. He's 10-13. He's 2-3 since coming to America. He won the Vosburg last time out. Obviously, it wasn't a great Vosburg field, but I just look at that race at Colonial, and I know the dirt track plays fast at Colonial. He ran 119-4 for 7 furlongs. I don't care how fast the track plays. If you can run sub 120 on dirt for 7 furlongs, you got a lot of talent. He's getting good at the right time. So I would suggest that we use domestic product, Saudi Crown, Mufasa, and Post Time, which would be 1, 8, 9, 12. What do you think?
I'm good. I love it. Mufasa, definitely,
Awesome.
that makes a lot of sense. That race at Colonial was a tough field too. That was not a gimme by any means.
Yeah, he dusted
and-
Repo Rocks.
Yeah, and ran absolutely huge. So yeah, I have no problem with that, and we're going to get good value on that one. My little bit concern is that domestic product's going to go off a big favorite. I mean, I think people might pile on something like that. But again, in the multi-race tickets, who cares? Let's connect.
Yeah, no doubt. And I agree. He's 7-2 morning line. I don't see any way that he actually goes off at that price. I'm hoping that Muth takes a little bit of money because I just don't think he has any shot. He's 9-2 morning line. So that's perfect. That puts us at an even 300 for this late pick 4 ticket. We're going 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 in the first leg, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10 in the second leg. In the third leg, we're going 1, 3, 6, 8, 12. And the final leg, we'll close it out with 1, 8, 9, 12, even $300. Total investment over the 2 days of about, doing the math right now, about 1,300, 650 each. I think that's reasonable for a big weekend like the Breeders' Cup, like I said, especially for Jim. So I feel good about these tickets. And yeah, Jim, any closing thoughts?
No, I think it's a great card. I think it's really interesting now that we have so many Europeans and Japanese horses coming in, because I love the way Japan's doing their program. I mean, it's taking control of the industry, and not in a bad way. So we have to embrace it. And once I think a few years of having all these Japanese horses in the circuit are going to get us used to handicapping it, and it's going to be a little bit easier down the road. We're going to understand it a little more, because I know from my standpoint, it's still brand new. So hopefully, totally. 5 years from now, it's commonplace, and now we're used to these horses coming in.
Yeah, 100%, and it adds to the flair. It adds to the flavor of the Breeders' Cup. Like, this is supposed to be an international event. Obviously, the Euros have been coming over here for a long time, but it's really cool to see other countries getting involved. Would love to see some Australia and New Zealand horses. Shout out to Andrew Stewart and Arian jumping over here to run in the Breeders' Cup as well. So, Jim, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights with me. No more 5 out of 6s, no more 4 out of 5s. We're cracking something this weekend. And we did hit it last year at the Breeders' Cup. Hopefully we get some prices in. And hopefully if you guys tail, you cash too. Always good to talk to you, my brother.
All right, my man. Good seeing you. Good luck.
All right, so that's it. Thanks for joining us on Rail Good Bets, Breeders' Cup Edition, Part 2, Breakaway Rail Talk, sponsored as always by Arian Pedigree. Shout out to Arian. Go to arian.co.nz for all your pedigree needs, and be on the lookout for that new website in 2025. Thank you to Jim Politano for putting those tickets together with me. Fingers crossed we cash again, because we did last year. Thanks to our producer, Patty Wolf, our associate producers, Julia Gresta and Nathan Wilkinson. See you back here next week on the main show to wrap up a phenomenal Breeders' Cup.